I've got it. What if he's on our side? Hear me out! Having a ferocious lion around might not be such a bad idea.
Well, then can we keep him?
Yes, of course we can keep him!
Well,
My God, who is the brains of this operation?
We're gonna name him Fred.
Man, oh man. Looks like Disney is all aboard the remake train and making absolutely no stops. With many CGI and live-action adaptations on the way, Disney seems to be planning to just redo their entire 2D film catalog as a means of generating a lot of cash. And when it comes down to it, can you really blame them? Their 2D films are very popular among both old and new Disney fans alike. Why write an original story that could totally flop when you can just remake a story with a concept that people are already familiar with and enjoyed? They know that at least a lot of millennials will be lured in with nostalgia to go see these remakes, so why not cash in on that? Now, whether or not Disney is using this remake revenue to help support future original content is something we'll just have to wait and look out for, but I digress. Regardless, Disney already has some remakes under their belt, with these movies receiving a mix of both mild and moderate success, but still seeing commercial success financially, though only a couple remakes actually made more money than their originals. With that being said, it'll be no surprise that Lion King will no doubt reach financial success, but rating-wise, how will things turn out? Was this a remake that just utterly puts the original movie to shame? Unfortunately, no. This remake was just okay. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad movie. While some remakes like Christopher Robin or Cinderella add some new experiences to how they tell the story, Lion King 2019 is literally the exact same movie note for note story-wise, from the opening scene all the way to the end credits. Like, imagine playing vanilla Minecraft. Now add a texture mod to it. That's Lion King 2019. There isn't a slight wrinkle or variation in how the story was told, and in a sense, I think that was to be expected. After all, I'm sure Disney is aware of how much their fans hold nostalgia close to their heart, and had they changed the movie in any way, they could have received a lot of hate and backlash from their fans. I mean, we're already seeing that with the future Little Mermaid remake, so Disney was definitely playing it safe here. Now you might be asking, but if the movie's still the same, then what's the problem? Well, you see, the movie's faults doesn't lie within its story, no, it rather lies within its execution. So let's break this down a bit here, starting with the voiceovers. And I'll preface this part by saying I had no problems with the cast members' singing voices. They all did a great job whether they're known for singing or not. I'd say the only problem I had regarding the songs was how they butchered the song Be Prepared. They cut the song from 3 minutes down to like 30 seconds. Now granted, I wasn't expecting them to include the entire 3-minute sequence from the original, as there's certainly a lot going on in that scene, but I feel like they certainly could have made that song just a bit longer. But aside from the singing, I found that some actors just aren't up to par with the original cast when it comes to voice acting. The voice work for characters like adult Simba and Nala certainly has its ups and downs, as I felt like there were times where they lacked the vocal projection or emotion to properly articulate how their characters were feeling. Just because you can sing or act doesn't necessarily mean you can voice act. That's just the reality of things, and I don't fault them for that. Voice acting is just something I may be more critical of than the average viewer, so I'm certain that it won't ruin the movie's experience for most of you. Though I'm pretty confident that Donald Glover and Beyoncé were casted for their roles mostly due to their singing chops. And it shows because there is a whole lot of riffing when it comes to their songs. Even though he's no Jeremy Irons, I still like Chiwetel Ejiofor's portrayal of Scar. It may have been limitations from the original movie script, but Chiwetel's performance certainly gives a more bitter tone with the character, as opposed to the more sarcastic and cunning Scar you might remember from the original. And I think given that Disney was going for a more realistic approach with this remake, I think Scar's bitterness in this certainly makes more sense in this context. So yeah, he feels a bit different than the original Scar, but it's a slight tonal change in his character that I welcome nonetheless. Also, I love John Oliver, Billy Eichner, and Seth Rogen's roles as Zazu, Timon, and Pumbaa respectively. I feel like they were perfect for those roles in this remake and really bring a lot of personality and comic relief to their characters. Now, let's talk about the animation, and I feel like I have to put a strong emphasis on animation here, as a lot of people seem to be calling this a live-action remake. So allow me to clarify. This isn't live action, these aren't real animals, these aren't real environments. It's all photorealistic animation, which just goes to show how convincingly real this movie looks. Like, there's no denying that this movie looks great, but ironically, I think this movie's realism is actually one of its biggest flaws. Because unlike other animated movies, there are just some elements this movie technically wouldn't be allowed to emulate, otherwise it would just ruin the immersion of realism. A big problem with the animation is the lack of emotion in these characters' facial expressions. Like, take these images from the original movie for example. They're full of character and emotion. You may not know the context of these scenes, but you can still recognize the characters' emotions and what they might be feeling. Now look at these images from the remake. What do these pictures tell you? That Scar looks tired? These characters can't really convey much in terms of emotions because they lack facial expressions. But if they did have detailed facial expressions, it would most certainly come off as weird or off-putting. And sure, you can infer what the character's feeling through the actor's tone of voice, but that'll be your only emotional reference for most of the movie. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of animals blankly looking at each other. Also, another downside to this movie's realism is seeing the animals talk. The mouth movement looks fine half the time, but still feels a bit awkward during the rest of it. Remember that hit talking animal movie Beverly Hills Chihuahua? Just imagine the awkward mouth movement from that, but with better CGI. I will say, however, I liked how the animation made the characters feel more like real animals through animalistic behavior and natural movement. Whether that's Simba going all stealth mode to catch a beetle, or Timon casually trying to eat bugs out of Simba's mane during a conversation. It was a nice touch for them adding minor details like those. So, in short, the movie was just okay. There isn't much to say about the story since it's still the same as the original, so it's basically just a more realistic looking Lion King. The voice acting needed some improvement, but the soundtrack was still pretty solid and will probably make you want to sing along like it did for me. With that being said, I still enjoyed the cast that Disney decided to go with for this remake. Everyone's performances may not invoke the same feelings that the original cast did, but I still think everyone did a good job nonetheless. Since this movie went for a more realistic medium, what it gained in photorealism it lacked in character expression and resulted with sometimes awkward animal lip syncing. I think it would have been nice if they changed the story in some slight variation, but at the same time, I guess I already knew that they wouldn't. I don't know if I'd say I'm disappointed with the movie. I mean, the original Lion King is a good movie, but it was never one of my favorites. I think it's just... I don't think I knew what I was expecting for this remake. And I guess I'll pose the same question to you. If you've seen this movie, what were your expectations for it? Do you think this remake did anything better than the original movie? And if you're a big Disney or Lion King fan and haven't seen the remake yet, I do implore you to go see it for yourself and let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, if you liked the video, make sure to leave a like as it lets me know you're enjoying the content. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button as it really does help the channel out. Alright guys, I think that'll be all for today, and so with that, I shall see you all next time.